Imagine possessing a collection so valuable that no insurance company on earth could put a price on it. A collection guarded by armed soldiers, hidden behind thick stone walls, and protected for centuries from thieves, conquerors, and even revolutions. These aren't just diamonds. They are symbols of power. Objects that have crowned kings, legitimized queens, witnessed the rise and fall of empires, and silently observed some of the most dramatic moments in British history. Every sparkling gemstone carries a story of ambition, betrayal, conquest, romance, and unimaginable wealth. For most people, these treasures appear only for a few brief moments each year, glittering beneath television cameras during grand royal ceremonies. Millions admire their beauty, but very few understand what they are actually looking at. Behind every crown, every brooch, every tiara, and every diamond lies a history far more extraordinary than the jewel itself. This is the hidden world of Britain's crown jewels. And their story begins on one of the most ceremonial days in the royal calendar. On a cold November morning, central London slowly awakens. Crowds gather behind barriers hours before sunrise. Soldiers in scarlet uniforms stand perfectly still. Mounted guards prepare their horses. Then, almost on cue, the enormous palace gates swing open. A magnificent royal procession begins its journey from Buckingham Palace toward the Palace of Westminster. To spectators, the event looks like an elaborate celebration of British tradition. Golden coaches roll through London's historic streets. Military bands perform centuries-old marches. Thousands of cameras capture every detail. Yet hidden within this spectacle is the true reason the ceremony commands such fascination. The jewels. While the monarch commands attention, the priceless treasures accompanying the procession often steal the show. Some of these gems have survived wars. Others cross continents. A few have been fought over by emperors, kings, and conquerors. Together, they form perhaps the most remarkable royal collection ever assembled. For centuries, these treasures have represented something much greater than wealth. They represent authority itself. A monarch may inherit a throne through birth. But throughout history, legitimacy has often been symbolized by the moment a crown touches the sovereign's head. Without these ceremonial objects, a coronation would simply be another ceremony. With them, history is made. Among every object in Britain's royal collection, one crown towers above all others. It appears only on the rarest occasions. Few people ever see it up close. Yet its image is recognized around the world. This is St. Edward's crown. Unlike many royal ornaments created simply for display, this crown has a singular purpose. Crowns a monarch. Forged from solid gold and decorated with hundreds of precious stones, it weighs nearly 4 pounds, far heavier than it appears. During a coronation, the Archbishop of Canterbury carefully lowers it onto the sovereign's head for only a brief moment. Those few seconds mark the official beginning of a reign. Sounds simple. In reality, it requires incredible precision. The crown is both massive and delicate. One mistake in front of millions could become one of history's most unforgettable moments. Generations of monarchs have felt its extraordinary weight, not merely the physical burden, but the symbolic responsibility it represents. Centuries of expectation rest beneath its golden arches. Yet St. Edward's crown wasn't always filled with genuine gemstones. Long before today's dazzling display, coronation jewels were surprisingly temporary. Precious stones were often rented from wealthy jewelers. After the ceremony ended, many gems were removed and returned. Maintaining permanent collections of diamonds was simply too expensive. Over time, as Britain's power expanded across the globe, the monarchy gradually assembled one of the richest jewel collections in existence. Each generation added new treasures. Some arrived as diplomatic gifts. Others came through inheritance. Several entered the collection after military victories or political agreements. Every new jewel added another chapter to Britain's royal story. Following a coronation, another extraordinary tradition unfolds. Members of the royal family appear wearing crowns, coronets, tiaras, and dazzling jewels of their own. To modern audiences, it may seem like extravagant fashion. Historically, it served a much deeper purpose. Every piece instantly communicated rank. Status could be understood without a single word. The larger the jewels, the greater the authority. The brilliance wasn't merely decoration. It was political theater. Royalty had to be seen. Power had to shine. Few jewels demonstrate this better than one of the most controversial diamonds in history. A diamond surrounded not only by admiration, but by legends. Its name has inspired fascination for centuries. The Koh-i-Noor, meaning mountain of light. The Koh-i-Noor has passed through the hands of emperors, conquerors, and dynasties across Asia before eventually becoming part of Britain's royal collection. Today, the Koh-i-Noor remains one of the most recognizable diamonds in the world, not simply because of its size, but because every generation continues debating its extraordinary past. But astonishingly, even the legendary Koh-i-Noor isn't Britain's largest famous diamond. That honor belongs to another treasure born from one of history's greatest discoveries. In 1905, deep beneath South African soil, miners uncovered something unlike anything previously seen. A rough diamond weighing more than 3,000 carats. It was so enormous that many initially questioned whether it could possibly be genuine. The stone became known as the Cullinan Diamond. News spread across the world almost instantly. Instead of remaining whole, the decision was made to divide it into multiple gems. It was an extraordinary gamble. One incorrect strike could reduce an irreplaceable treasure into worthless fragments. The responsibility fell upon one of Europe's greatest diamond cutters. For months he studied every natural fracture hidden inside the stone. He measured, observed, calculated. Only when completely certain did he finally raise his blade. Royal representatives watched in complete silence. The room held its breath. Then, one precise blow. The giant crystal separated exactly as planned. History had changed forever. From that single diamond emerged several of the most famous gemstones on Earth. And together, they would transform Britain's royal regalia forever. One would eventually become known as the Great Star of Africa. Another would find its place inside the Imperial State Crown itself. Together, they remain among the most valuable jewels ever worn by any monarch. But their journey was only beginning. Because over the next century, these extraordinary diamonds would appear at coronations, state openings of parliament, royal weddings, and historic events watched by billions around the world. And each appearance would strengthen the enduring connection between the British monarchy and the dazzling symbols of its power. In the next chapter, we'll uncover how these incredible diamonds became part of the monarchy's most iconic crowns, and why every monarch continues to wear them during Britain's most important state ceremonies. If there is one object that perfectly represents the British monarchy, it isn't Buckingham Palace. It isn't the royal family, and it isn't even the throne. It's a single crown. One that has witnessed coronations, survived political crises, traveled through generations, and appeared at some of the most important moments in British history. The Imperial State Crown. Unlike St. Edward's crown, which is reserved almost exclusively for the coronation itself, the Imperial State Crown remains in regular ceremonial use. Every year, during the state opening of Parliament, millions watch as the monarch arrives wearing this extraordinary masterpiece. To most viewers, it's simply another glittering royal tradition. But every jewel embedded within the crown tells a story that stretches across centuries. This is far more than an expensive piece of jewelry. It is a living museum. Every diamond, ruby, sapphire, and pearl carries its own remarkable history. Together, they tell the story of Britain's monarchy itself. The version seen today was created in the 19th century for Queen Victoria, but it inherited treasures that were already centuries old. Royal jewelers didn't simply create a new crown from scratch. Instead, they combined priceless historic gemstones with modern craftsmanship. The result became one of the most recognizable royal symbols anywhere in the world. From a distance, its brilliance is almost overwhelming. Thousands of diamonds sparkle beneath television lights. Rows of pearls frame its arches. Brilliant sapphires and emeralds add flashes of deep blue and rich green. But hidden among all that beauty are several stones unlike any others on Earth. Dominating the front of the crown is a gemstone that has traveled through battlefields, royal courts, and medieval Europe. Known as the Black Prince's ruby, it isn't actually a ruby at all. Despite its famous name, modern science classifies it as a red spinel. Yet its historical importance remains untouched. For more than 6 centuries, it has been linked to English royalty. Legends claim it accompanied kings into battle. It survived wars that changed the course of history. Generation after generation, Monarchs chose to preserve it inside the crown rather than replace it with a newer or larger gemstone. Its value lies not only in rarity but in everything it has witnessed. It is a silent survivor of Britain's medieval past. Directly beneath it rests another legendary treasure, the second star of Africa. This magnificent diamond began life inside the enormous Cullinan Diamond discovered in South Africa in 1905. After months of careful planning, the massive crystal was divided into several remarkable gems. The largest became the Great Star of Africa. The second largest found its permanent home inside the Imperial State Crown. Size alone is astonishing, but its significance goes far beyond its brilliance. Whenever the monarch appears wearing the crown, the second star of Africa immediately becomes one of the most valuable diamonds visible anywhere in the world. Very few people ever realize they're looking at one of history's greatest gemstones. The crown also contains magnificent sapphires whose stories stretch back to the earliest English kings. One sapphire is traditionally associated with Saint Edward the Confessor, whose reign ended nearly 1,000 years ago. Whether every legend surrounding the stone is historically accurate hardly matters today. Its inclusion reflects something more important: continuity. The monarchy has always relied on tradition. Objects become symbols because generations choose to preserve them. Every coronation reinforces those traditions. Every ceremony strengthens the connection between past and present. The jewels aren't simply inherited, their meaning is inherited too. Despite its dazzling appearance, wearing the Imperial State Crown isn't easy. It weighs more than a kilogram. Imagine balancing that weight perfectly while walking, greeting guests, delivering speeches, and maintaining flawless posture before millions of viewers. Former royal staff have often described the crown as surprisingly uncomfortable. Its weight constantly reminds the wearer that ceremony demands endurance, as well as elegance. Even Queen Elizabeth II occasionally joked about the challenge. Reading lengthy speeches while wearing such a heavy crown required absolute concentration. Looking down too quickly wasn't an option. The crown's weight could easily shift. Instead, every movement had to be deliberate and controlled. Years of experience made those carefully rehearsed moments appear effortless. Each year, the state opening of Parliament follows a carefully choreographed sequence that has changed very little over generations. The monarch leaves Buckingham Palace wearing a lighter ceremonial diadem. Only after arriving at Westminster does the transformation occur. Inside the robing room, attendants carefully remove the traveling crown. The Imperial State Crown is then placed upon the sovereign's head. From that moment onward, every detail reinforces royal authority. The magnificent robes, the ancient regalia, the glittering jewels. Together they create one of the world's oldest surviving state ceremonies. For centuries, governments have changed. Prime ministers have come and gone. Empires have risen and disappeared. Yet this remarkable tradition continues almost unchanged. Of course, magnificent crowns are only part of the royal collection. Some of the monarchy's most treasured diamonds aren't mounted in crowns at all. Instead, they appear in brooches, necklaces, and personal jewelry worn during official engagements. Among the most extraordinary are two diamonds known collectively as the Lesser Stars of Africa. Like their larger counterparts, these gems also came from the Cullinan Diamond. Originally mounted within royal regalia, they eventually became part of the monarch's personal jewelry collection. Unlike the crown jewels, which belonged to the nation, these pieces became personal possessions passed from one sovereign to another. That distinction is surprisingly important. Some jewels symbolize the crown itself. Others belong to the individual who wears them. Understanding the difference helps explain why certain pieces appear only during state ceremonies while others accompany the monarch at diplomatic receptions, banquets, and family occasions. One of Queen Elizabeth II's favorite ways to wear these diamonds was as a brooch. Together, the two gems formed a striking display of light that photographers often struggled to capture accurately. Under natural sunlight, they seemed almost impossibly bright. Royal watchers affectionately nicknamed them Granny's chips, reflecting both their enormous size and the Queen's understated sense of humor. Despite their extraordinary value, she wore them with remarkable ease, treating them almost as familiar companions rather than museum pieces. That quiet confidence became one of her defining characteristics. For her, these jewels weren't simply luxury.